Hey everybody, Michael Snyder, Pacific Northwest Weather Watch. Today's September 9th, and right now we're looking at the visible satellite imagery as of yesterday on September 8th. You can see all the smoke we had across the area, some thunderstorm activity out there, some marine there moving around the coastal areas in western Washington. We're going to scroll through this yesterday and take a look at what happened. You can see we did start to clear out some of that smoke for western portions, but we had that thunderstorm activity across eastern Oregon, clipping southeast Washington, moving across Idaho. And you see this plume here, that is a fire. And I'm going to show you some of these fires out there because I'm not sure exactly which one that is. There's 4 very active fires in this general vicinity, but producing huge amounts of smoke, pyrocumulus clouds, creating its own lightning. And then you can see that went on into the overnight hours. And look at these hot spots across the higher terrain of central Idaho. And you can see them across the Oregon Cascades and on into eastern Oregon as well. Just prolific smoke producing fires. So we scroll on in through very early this morning now. You see that thunderstorm activity move off to the east finally. And now we go in towards this morning, and you can see just this enormous plume of smoke, but the air condition has improved dramatically for western Oregon and western Washington. But if you are across some of the Oregon Cascades, eastern Oregon, Idaho, and Montana, of course, you are dealing with that smoke. Look at north central Montana dealing with just an intense amount of smoke there as well. And lots going on here on the satellite imagery. You can also see lenticular cloud activity coming off the Cascades of Washington. If you look there, you can kind of see the standing lenticular clouds. You can see the marine layer and some higher clouds moving in. That'll be coming from the next system here over the next couple of days. We'll look at that in some detail here as well as we go through the video this morning. So these are the fires. I'm not sure if that was the Middle Fork, the Nelly, or the Bulldog, and there's a little Wapiti out there as well. So I think it was coming from here. It looked like on the satellite imagery yesterday, but nonetheless, you saw just the enormous amounts of smoke that was producing. Now, we do have the rain chances coming up for some areas as we go through Wednesday. You can see kind of a lesser amounts there, or lesser chances for the Columbia Basin there, or eastern Washington, some of eastern Oregon. But we do have the system rolling through here, and you can kind of see how it's favoring western Oregon and some of the Cascades. But you could get some precipitation here for western Washington as well. Red flag warnings in effect. We got some gusty winds and low relative humidities. And again, Spokane National Weather Service always on top of things, pointing out the potential hazards of some of these breezy winds. Looking at the elevated fire risk, you can see the isolated dry has pushed off. That's the isolated dry thunderstorm activity, but we still have the elevated fire risk here from the Storm Prediction Center. And this is for tomorrow, continuing for some portions, including Tri-Cities, Walla Walla there, for example. This is the thunderstorm threat. And again, kind of just kind of pointing that out, we are now kicking that off to the east for the day today, but we could have additional thunderstorm threat coming up here. I'm going to show you that here in a moment. Looking at Seattle yesterday, 75 degrees, 1 degree above average. And you can see how we average about 74 this time of year. By the time we get towards the end of September, we are down towards 67 degrees, and we likely have some precipitation coming up here. More on that here in a moment. Now, if we look at the composite reflectivity in the North American model, this is a high resolution one. It goes out about 60 hours. We're going to scroll through and you can see we get a little bit of a break here as we go through Tuesday night and evening. We start to bring that precipitation back into the area, and this could bring some thunderstorm potential for the Oregon coast, maybe some of western Oregon as we go on in towards Wednesday morning. You can kind of see the system pinwheel across places east of the mountains as well. So it could even bring some precipitation out to places who typically don't get much at this time of year, and could bring some thunderstorm potential with some of these storms as well, especially across some of eastern Oregon, it looks like. So if we look at the high resolution rapid refresh, I want to point this out because the HRRR does show some of this activity going through western Oregon as thunderstorm potential there. Then no doubt there's going to be a threat east of the mountains there as well as we go on in through the day Wednesday. So I also wanted to show this, the high resolution rapid refresh. This is simulated infrared satellite imagery. If you have a chance to be out in the Cascades, you can see these lenticular clouds are going to continue on probably through this afternoon and maybe on in through this evening as well. So get out there and get your cameras ready if you just happen to capture a nice spot. There are going to be some mid and high level clouds around, so they may be obscured at times, but if you're pretty close to some of the mountainous areas here or underneath some of those lenticular clouds, you might be able to see them quite nicely here. And it looks like it's a pretty good show going on this morning that is not really being picked up too well, so those are probably visible as we speak right now. Now, taking a look at 80-meter wind speed on the North American model, just showing you that we have those gusty westerlies rolling down the east coast with the Cascades, especially as we go through this afternoon and evening, eastern Washington, eastern Oregon. You can see the northerlies through the Okanagan River Valley here as well. So yeah, some gusty winds out there. Now, taking a look at the relative humidity, I want to kind of just show you this as you go through the diurnal cycle there. As we warm up a little bit during the daytime, we drop those relative humidities, and with the gusty winds, that equals fire danger for places east of the mountains. And Another look at the smoke here. This is 8-meter ground smoke density. This does a forecast. This is the high resolution model. It goes out 48 hours, but you can see just the intense amounts of smoke being produced by places across Oregon and Idaho here. Not too much going on across Washington, so that helps out the places downwind of that. In eastern Washington, you can see the Willamette Valley and western Washington doing much better as far as fire smoke is concerned. And since we have this, I might as well just show the vertically integrated, how much is in the upper layers of the atmosphere as well. And you can see that we're not doing too bad here for Seattle and Portland. Still just a little residual smoke out there right now across the Willamette Valley aloft. Now, this is a wider view of things. We have Japan off to the left here. You've got Alaska right there. There's the Hawaiian Islands. And there is the state of Washington right here. So if we put this into motion, here goes the kink in the jet for our next system as we go through Tuesday night on in through Wednesday. Tiny bit of a transient ridge tries to build there, but we quickly replace that with some troughing as we go on into this weekend coming up. And you can kind of see at this time of year, the jet stream starts to dip a little bit further south as these systems are much more frequent. Our ridges tend to be of longer duration and weaker. So that is why we are getting out of this cooler, or out of the warmer period and headed towards a cooler period. And you can kind of see this ridge has been showing up in some of the models as we go through the extended forecast. But again, it's fairly transient right there. It's September after all. We tend not to have those stick around too long at this time of year, but we can still get warm up. So we'll be watching that off through the extended. And if we look at the European artificial intelligence, this was help kicking it on our onshore flow, and then you can see the next system rolling down as we go through the day Wednesday, and then it quickly gets replaced with more troughing here, and then you can see additional troughing potentially all the way on in through the September 20th time frame. So yeah, we'll see how that goes, and then maybe we'll get one last taste of summer here as we go through the end of the month, but no promise of that. That's just strictly a fantasy forecast at this point. Now looking at the GFS, we're going to look at some similarities here on versus the European model. This is the hot off the presses 12Z run. I just updated it because they're still getting data in here. Now you can see the system come down across the Pacific Northwest as we go on in through the day Wednesday, as I mentioned. And then what does it do with the next trough? Okay, it continues to open up troughing here across the Pacific Northwest as we go on in through the upcoming weekend as well. Then it keeps replacing that, and it would keep us in a cooler pattern. Strong onshore flow would be apparent there. Some transient ridging showing up, but maybe another system after that. We're looking way off into fantasy land here. And some of the models are showing some kind of ridging trying to develop there, but again, it's not even worth really mentioning too much at this point. Now, looking at 24-hour running total precipitation amounts. In fact, let's just go ahead and put that on total precipitation here because, we're relishing everything we can get at this time of year. So here goes our initial system. You can see better amounts for Western Oregon, Seattle 1,307 inch. Not much showing up for the Columbia Basin with that first storm there. But you can see as the upper level low spins across portions of Idaho and Montana. Check it out. Some big amounts for northwest Montana up into extreme southeastern British Columbia and Alberta. Then we wait to see what's coming off into the extent of what will those next troughs bring. You can see start to go all the way into next Monday. Not talking about a lot of precip until there's kind of a wetter system out there, but that's up over 200 hours out. So it is that time of year. We're still going through the fall transition, and these systems are very fickle. And if you've been watching the weather models here over the last week or so, you've known that because the flip-flopping that these models do with these systems coming up. Now, taking a look at what is known as precipitable water, this is where you can kind of see atmospheric rivers and kind of doing their thing. And I scroll way out here towards 200 hours to kind of show you a little fantasy atmospheric river there, but it's fairly progressive. It would bring a nice shot of precipitation to some areas here, but no flooding event would be associated with that. However, that's what we're watching at this time of year. Now, looking at temperatures here, this is for today, Monday. You can see Seattle 72. It's not bad here across some of western Oregon, eastern Washington, eastern Oregon, still warming up quite nicely. And then we go through Tuesday, Wednesday as the system swings through. Look at the air conditioning just kicks on for much of the region. And hopefully we can bring some precipitation for places across Oregon. We really got to do some rainfall for those areas. We got to help put out these fires, especially across Idaho as well. And then we go through Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. You can see how we remain seasonably cool as we go on in through the mid portion of September. So gladly we will take that. I know the mossbacks will. Now looking at 30-year normal precipitation amounts for September, you can see Washington State and Oregon here. There's Idaho. And as we scroll through here, you'll notice, of course, we get towards October, things getting a bit more wet. And then November is usually the king month, and we stay pretty darn wet as we go through December and January as well. And kind of see how the terrain features of the Cascade Mountains and the Olympic Mountains really like to bring the higher amounts with them. Now looking at 6 to 10 day temperature outlook, west coast here below average all the way through September 18th. You can see the big above average signal here from much of the west. 8 to 14 day, we're keeping that going through the 22nd with that repeated troughing, likely as you saw in some of the model runs. And then all the 8 to 14 day, much of the west here above average, including the Pacific Northwest. So yeah, there are some lenticular clouds out there. You can kind of see them flaring up here. I'm going to update that really quick and see if we can put that into motion and see what this shows. There we go. Yeah, you can see those lenticular clouds out there. There's probably a decent show going on near Mount Rainier right now. I'm tempted to drive up there right now. I'll have to check what I have to go on, what I have going on today before I take on an endeavor like that. You know, it's a 2-3 hour drive to get up there. But yeah. Anyway, we'll continue to watch those systems off into the future. Hope you guys are having a good day. Otherwise, we'll check back with this daily and we'll keep watching to see what's coming here. These fall transitions can be tricky. You're trying to find these systems rolling in here and bring the precipitation. But otherwise, I hope you guys are having a good day. We'll continue to watch this day by day, and I will talk to you guys tomorrow.